Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Stratagoy video. Ryan here, breaking the news to you that this channel has secretly the whole time been a Cities of Sigmar channel, and Jonas just didn't know it because we're about to be entering a new era of content where Ryan will be covering I'm speaking in third person here, will be covering his favorite army. Tzeentch and KO are pretty close behind, but my favorite army is definitely Cities of Sigmar. And I've been holding back for the past year or so after finding out that probably a lot of the range is going to get squatted. But today we finally, on the road to knowing the Battletome and everything, get some news as to what is going on with the range. So you've probably already seen the article, but if you haven't, then here's coverage. And if you have, these are my thoughts. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, here we go. This is the big one. I'm going to admit that I've already read this. I kind of skimmed it. But then it occurred to me that I should probably make a reaction video. So this will be like a more thorough version of me reading through it. But I'm going to read this out for everyone because it's an article that honestly should have come out a year ago. But it is what it is. I'm glad it's here. And who knows when this Battletome is coming out, but obviously they're trying to get ahead of the field bats. So let's check it out. Alright. Cities of Sigmar range announcement. Amid gleaming pennants flapping the wind, the pounding of drums, and the rattle of the baggage train, Battletome Cities of Sigmar is on the horizon. So once again, for all those out there, this confirms that it's not called Dawnbringer Crusades. So many people thought, oh, it's going to be a totally new army, and they confirmed that it wasn't going to be a long time ago. So, just more confirmation. With it comes a huge range of new miniatures and units, and a host of updated war scrolls to encompass the many existing warriors who make up the battle hosts of Order. But with this awesome new muster comes certain key changes to the expansive existing range. Pay attention, troops, this is what you need to know. So they've got a photo here of the new limited edition box that'll have a battle tome, the war scroll cards, and these units, which is 2 of the infantry units, 1 of the cavalry, 1 of the buff hero, and then 1 of like the more leader hero. Obviously the Manticore is going to be sold separately, and the ogre guy. It makes sense. All right. New miniatures and their replacements. We've now seen a new general and new infantry, cavalry, gunners, and even an ogre, while more updated units, including artillery, are on their way to a preview article near you. So there we go. We got still more units coming. We know there's going to be 54 war scrolls, which put us at least something like 14, 15 that we were going to have to lose. Hint, hint. But let's see what else they're going to say here. And we know that there's going to be some new artillery, so that's cool. These miniatures will be replacing many current models on a like-for-like basis. I like this wording because, as you're going to see, a lot of those new free guild type models really kind of just replace some old things, and they wanted to refresh the range and whatever. So if you've got humans, you're probably sitting in an okay state, even though you wouldn't be playing with the newest version of the models. So, quite a few current units, including the Steam Tank, Celestial Huracanum, and Imperial Griffin, will continue their service as part of the Cities of Sigmar. Now this is great. I have a Luminarch, a Huracanum, which I'm assuming if the Huracanum's staying, so is the Luminarch. I have a Steam Tank, and I actually have a third kit for the Huracanum Luminarch build, so that's great. I also have the Battle Mage on Griffin, and I've got my own custom made using an Archaeoraptor from AdMech in 40k, Free Guild General on Griffin. So it sounds like all of that's staying, and that makes me really happy because who doesn't like their big models? And they make sense. Maybe the Griffin a little less, but definitely the Huracanums and Steam Tank look a lot like the new stuff. All right. Dwarden and Elves. As for the other races who make up the armies of the God King, Dwarden and Elves still feature in the book, which they've let us know this whole time. But, of course, there's been some contemplation that we're going to lose some of it. Continuing on, though the focus of the new Battletome is definitely the mortal humans. The same is true of the new miniatures releases. Elves and Dwarden have been well served over the past few years with Battletomes of their own, and it's high time that the humble humans put the mortal back into mortal realms. And this is a good point because if you think about it, we talk a lot about like what Sigmar is protecting, but the only humans that we saw a lot of are cities. Well, the cities free guild, but my point was more Stormcast, that stuff that didn't come straight from the fallen 8th edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. You could argue that like Slaves of Darkness, Chaos Warrior type stuff, of course, is implied human, and all the Warcry warbands, but all of that, of course, is for Chaos. And then anything that's death is ostensibly human, I guess, because they don't go out of their way to make them look Dwarden, skeleton or ghost-like, or elven, though that, of course, would be closer. And then destruction certainly is much more in the, ogres are humanoids, suns are humanoids, but obviously anything that's goblin or orc is something else. All right. This means that Cities of Sigmar generals will have a lot of options for how they construct their forces. If you like the look of the new mortal humans, you can certainly make them the backbone of your force. If you like the idea of a combined arms force of elves, dwarven humans, that works too. And you can still field an all-elven or entirely dwarven armies if you like, though you may find your choices somewhat limited. Now, this is to be expected. It was already true. If you wanted to build all-elven, we had more options than what we're about to see, but still, like if you wanted to do all Wanderers, which is the Wood Elves guys, you weren't making a strong army with that. And Cities was kind of meant to kind of be a mix anyway, even though I'd say people probably leaned a little bit more into, the people who played competitively leaned in more to a human-oriented build, maybe with some Phoenix Guard and stuff on the side, or some Dwarven Iron Drakes, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, this is also, if you look at like the Orc War Clans book, like Bone Splitters is there, but they're not really great. Or Goblins, like if you look at Gitz, the Spider Fang stuff is just not as well supported. So you could also say this about a lot of armies, other armies. Say like, well, this thing exists and you could build a whole army of it, but it's not going to have a lot of support. So that's okay. You'll also be able to dip into many other battle tomes with some flexible and thematic rules for allies, which will add character and choice to your forces where appropriate. For instance, armies hailing from Tempesai can add Caradron overlords to their ranks, while the Living City can be bolstered by the forces of Sylvaneth. Now, this is one of the big points that I've been worried about, because Coalition in Cities is its own special, beautiful thing as it currently exists, where Soup gets to still live on in 3rd edition, and this wording is ambiguous. They reference them as allies, not coalition, which it's definitely pulling it back. I would have expected them to at least keep them as coalition and then not give them the keywords. I am glad to see that Tempesai can add Caradron to their ranks while Living City can take Sylvaneth. Now, if they're literally meaning this as allies, what that kind of implies is that other cities can't even ally in Caradron overlords and only Tempesai can ally them in. I don't think they're actually going to go that direction. So my guess is what they mean is allies in the generic sense, and then we still get Coalition in Tempesai and Living City as Sylvaneth. In any case, at least we know that they get to be allied in those two cities, but I really hope it's more. Now, the follow-up question, of course, is what I said earlier, that they no longer would get the keywords and therefore not be able to use things. Now, they did say you'll also be able to dip into many other battle tomes with some flexible and thematic rules. This sounds really positive. I could see, like, maybe they'd have separate advantages for those KO units that get brought in, or Sylvaneth units. Dip into many other battle tomes sounds way more than what we just said, with just these being downgraded to allies. And then flexible and thematic rules sounds great. So, and to add character and choice to your forces where appropriate. This sounds positive. I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't want to conspiracy theory this too much or think it out loud too much. What is it called? Tinfoil hat this too much. But anyway, units leaving the range, and here comes the assault, I guess. To make way for these new models, inevitably, with a capital I, some units will be leaving the Warhammer Age of Sigmar range. Many of these aren't gone for good, and will in fact be returning in due course under the banner of Warhammer the Old World as reinforcements for the High Elves, the Wood Elves, and the Empire. Okay, so this sentence is ambiguous too. They aren't gone for good, and will in fact be returning in due course under the banner of Warhammer the Old World. Now, if to say they aren't gone for good and that they're just getting moved over to Old World makes it, that's not what I would define as aren't gone for good. I would like to think that the interpretation of the sentence is some of those units are going to get put into other future armies, because actually those Wood Elves kits are relatively new, by the way. Hint, hint, we're going to be losing some of them. Some of these kits are from like 8th edition time and not from like way before then. Like they came in boxes that were more flexible, or they were the white boxes back when we had that generation of boxes. And then they'll be returning in due course. I hope to read this as, and in addition to aren't gone for good, will be returning, of course, to the Old World, because that's literally, the Old World's going to need those kits. Like, they're not going to redesign every single army for Old World. That's just not what they're going to do. And this is, of course, confirming that High Elves, Wood Elves, and Empire, I think they've already seen that in Old World articles, but yeah. So all that free gold stuff is going into the Empire stuff, but we'll see some more about this in a second. And they got this lovely picture of Tempesai, Shadow Warriors, and Lord Castellan, or is it the Veritans? I can't remember. And then a guy on Dracoth, and a mix of Stormcast. I'm hoping that this is still an indication that Stormcast is a very big part of Cities, which I fully expect it will. Okay, if you have any of these classic models in your existing Cities of Sigmar lineup, don't worry. I like that they're saying this, because this was important. And this is why I really think they should have put this article out a year ago, is because ever since I found out that this is probably where we're headed, I've stopped wanting to buy things to bolster my forces, because I didn't know what was getting squatted. Squatting, by the way, means like squats originally in 40k got taken out of the game entirely, like they never existed, but then of course they brought them back as Leagues of Odin, but of course there's old models you never use as proxies for those, so squatting kind of still works. If I had known, I could have either sold things while people in the 9th Age want to use them, or other Cities players want to get on that train real quick, because there have been people buying them. And then for those people that were trying to get started with the army in the past year, every one of us in Facebook forums and whatever kept saying, hey, you should probably buy with caution, because a lot of this might go away. And I feel like GW might have shot themselves in the foot by waiting so long. I think the thought is, oh, well, they could sell kits to unwary people, but then by people being smarter and being wary, they're just choosing not to start the army at all. So, I don't know. I could see it going either way. But anyway, in almost every instance, there's still a similar analog in the Battletome. This is perfect. I'll read the next sentence to give context. For example, you could use your Wildwood Rangers, of which I have 30, Elite Elves with two-ended swords, as Executioners, Elite Elves with two-ended swords. And this is a theory that we had for a while, is that things were going to get folded into kind of like elite things with two-handed weapons. Infantry would all be able to use, kind of one for one. Good news is I have 0 Executioners, so if they make that War Scroll good, I now have 30 Eternal Warriors and 30 Wildwood Rangers, so who knows if that's where we're going. But we'll see. Okay. And I like that they said in almost every instance there's a similar analog in the Battletome. This is their way of saying you're going to get to still use this stuff. And this next paragraph kind of outlines that. There are some really beautiful Cities of Sigmar armies out there in the world that have made great use of the existing range, as well as conversions and inventive paint schemes. And we'd hate to see them shelved, so by all means carry on playing with your miniatures. Just make sure that if you are using older models which aren't in the Battletome, your opponent is clear which units represent what. Now, this was always kind of the ethos, if you will, of Cities. I've been using 40k AdMech and a Custodes models as my free guild stuff, because I just don't like the old Pantaloon stuff for the whole time. And the TOs have been accepting of it, as long as you make it clear that you're not just taking your 40k models and double dipping. I feel like as long as it makes sense enough. And I've done that. I've given them like banners and stuff. And then and what they're saying here is basically, look, we recognize that a lot of people have put a lot of hobby time into Cities, and and this is atypical of GW. It's not necessarily endorsing 3D printing, but it's them saying we recognize that GW product is not the only thing out there. They didn't quite say that. They said it's conversions, but come on, let's be honest. A lot of conversions aren't just using GW parts. But I've tried to stick to that for the most part. And they're basically saying, TOs, please don't be dicks. Like, we're not trying to screw over people. And that's good. I mean, if you look at what Stormcast has had, they've lost very few units over their run since 2015. And, it makes the book bloaty, but at the same time, it's respecting the players. Now, I think they probably could fold some things in Stormcast and be okay, but it is what it is. I'm glad to see that they're trying to be reasonable. 3 editions in with cities after people have built. I have, for example, a 13,000 something point army, so that's without coalition being taken into account. So I'm going to get a little screwed on this, and we're about to see how much, but anyway, it's definitely giving me some hope, which is why I'm making this video. Here are the models that will soon be leaving the Age of Sigmar range and thus will not be appearing in the new Cities of Sigmar Battletome. Okay. Free Guild General on foot. This is just one dude. I have proxies for this guy. You guys don't need to know all my proxies, but I'm assuming we're going to have some leader that functions like this. Like they said, there's kind of an analog for everything. Free Guild Crossbowmen and Handgunners. Free Guild Guard, and there were 2 or 3, was it? 3 different ways to build them. I think there was like a spear, a sword. There's at least 2 different ways you could build them. Hellblaster volley gun and the Hellstorm rocket battery. So both artillery pieces are going away. That said, they said they're bringing in new artillery, so you can use those hopefully on the same size base. If the worst thing is you just have to rebase it, so be it. Free Guild Pistoliers, Outriders. These were Battleline and Tempest Eye. Free Guild Greatswords. The elite guys. Demogryph Knights. This I'm particularly bummed about unless they bring something back that's elite, like 3 per unit with the bases, because I really like mine, which are the Custodes on Virtus Praetors or whatever from Custodes. I really like how I did those, but anyway. Flamespire / Frostheart Phoenix. That's one of the big picks for Allies options, which is a bummer that they're gone. So, and kind of cool models, kind of old-fashioned, but I've got 1 of each, so I guess they're going away. But they said in most cases analog, so maybe we'll have them. Phoenix Guard. This hurts because I've got 60 of them, but I can use them as executioners or something. Which means, unfortunately, with the Wildwood Rangers and Eternal Guard, I have another 60 combined to those. So I got 120 executioners and Blackguard, evidently. We'll see. Sisters of the Thorn, Wild Riders. So these are the 2 cavalry versions, which is unfortunate because I just made a video talking about using them, but it is what it is. Well, I'm still going to leave it in. Araloth, which nobody names. That's not what his name is in the Battletome. And the Noble Prince, which is also not his name. It's the Nomad Prince, if I'm not mistaken. He's the one leader from Wanderers. And then Shadow Warriors and Sisters of Avalorn, which are actually known in the Battletome as Sisters of the Sisters of the Watch, which takes out both Elven bow units, missile units, ranged units. They're the same kit, and you just built them differently, which is also unfortunate because I've got 40 of those. So I'm definitely getting hit with this, but assuming there's some other version of Elven missile ranged stuff, I should be okay, especially if they bring in some other Elven cavalry. So what are we seeing here? We're basically seeing everything in Free Guild is going away, but not all the humans. So, for example, this would imply, if this is a full list of the stuff that was in the original 2nd edition Battletome, not including all the Hexbanes, Hunters, and all that stuff that's come out since, that means we are keeping all of the mages and stuff. They're all staying, which would be 4 different versions of mages on different things, plus the 2 versions of the Huracanum and Luminarch that aren't manned, or aren't hero versions. And then obviously they said the Free Guild General, the Griffin kit stays, so I'm assuming the Free Guild General stays, which would be great, because I love my version of it. In Ironweld Arsenal, where the Hellblaster Volley Gun and Hellstorm Rocket Battery came from, again, they're replacing that, but there was also the Cogsmith and the 2 gyrocopters and the steam tank, and they said the steam tank's staying. And they said, well, assuming everything that's not on this list is staying, so that all is staying. Let's see. So this is all Free Guild, and then some human stuff. This is the entirety of the line, so the Phoenix line, or whatever, Phoenicium's people. But they didn't technically mention the Anointed on foot, which comes from this kit. So I don't know what the story is there, but I'm assuming if the rest of it's going, then he's going to, and they just forgot to list him. And then this is everything from the Wood Elves, Wanderers types. And then this guy is the only guy that's coming out of the Shadow Blades, which was Dark Knights, which is the other kit for, or Dark Riders, excuse me, the other kit for that you can do Doomfire Warlocks with, and then the Assassin. So I'm assuming they're staying too. What this also means, all the Dwarden stuff is staying. So even the Gyros. So that's fantastic. I love the Dwarden. Furthermore, we are keeping, evidently, all of the Dark Elf stuff. So that would mean the two Sorceress versions, the 3 different versions of the light infantry, including the Dark Shards, Bleak Swords. Well, it would be the Dark Shards, Bleak Swords, and Dread Spears, and the Executioners, as they mentioned, and Blackguard. And then we've got the Scourge Runner stuff, which would be Scourge Runner Chariot. You've got the Black Ark Fleet Master, the Black Ark Corsairs, and then the Hydra. Is he in that one? And Charybdis. I think it's Charybdis there. And Hydra's in Order Serpentis, which is going to be your Dreadlord on Black Dragon. The Drakespawn Knights, which I have 15 of, so that's good. All the Chariots. By the way, I have 6 of the Chariots, which is 3 of each type. And then the War Hydra, which is great. I actually have an extra kit I haven't built yet, so hopefully they're getting good rules, because that would be fun to finally field them. And I like those models; they're fun. So that, and then, like I said, the Assassin and the Dark Riders. So I'm assuming all that's staying, and then we're getting all the new kits, which is most likely just all human. So anyway, they just said we'll have more information on Cities of Sigmar very soon as launch approaches, and keep your spy glasses polished for a new old world development diary later in July. And that's the article. So overall, I'm happy to see this. It gives me some kind of comfort knowing that things are headed in a direction that's reasonable enough. I am curious of these units, how many are directly analogable into what's there. So, if you did say that some of these replace the other ones, like the Sisters of the Thorn and Wild Riders aren't really good replacements for Drakespawn Knights. It doesn't really make any sense. So, I think those I'm unfortunately having to never play with again. I don't know. We'll see if they add a unit that makes sense. And then, all of these guys that could be the elite versions of units, it's too bad. You could say some of the Black Ark Corsairs, but they just are built differently. They've got crossbows in their hands, so it doesn't really make sense to have those guys be those. But, we'll see. I could, of course, sell some of these to people that want to use them or for old world type stuff, which I don't anticipate. So, we shall see. I hope you guys enjoyed this little review of someone who is deeply in the city's mindset and is very much looking forward to the new Battletome. And apart from that, I was just worried about what was going to happen here, but this helps me prepare mentally for what's yet to come. And there you have it. Thank you once again for watching. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Join us in the comment section below and let us know what you think, what's going to be happening. And, of course, in the Discord, we even have a Cities tab there. And looking forward to seeing what evolves with the Battletome in the coming months. In the meantime, thanks again, guys.